Good afternoon, friends. We are talking about the management accounting. This is the first episode. There will be number of episodes in which we shall discuss the management accounting. This is the introduction, and this introduction I will introduce you the concept of management accounting, the subject management accounting. What are the objectives of management accounting? Management accounting serves the information needs of managers at all levels, from top management to operating managers. Managers need information because their responsibility is to optimize the use of resources available with them. They need the information for planning and control. Planning implies searching for the alternatives, evaluating alternatives to decide which of the alternative is best to achieve the company's purpose profitably and responsibly. And when we talk about planning, controls come immediately. Control implies that management need information to ensure that results are as expected. The control system which we talk about is about changing the pattern of the organization. In what sense? In the sense that when we allow the lower level managers or even lower level employees generally to innovate, it might be essential to reorganize, restructure the organization. And these information for planning and control is provided by the management accounting system. Often we talk about together the cost and management accounting. But there is a difference between the two. When we speak about the cost accounting, we say that cost accounting collects the data from within the boundary of the firm to value the product, to determine the cost of the product as accurately as possible. Why they collect the data? Because their inventory valuation is required for financial accounting purposes, as we know. And inventory valuation is also required, as we shall see later, for motivating the managers. This product cost, which is being determined, as I say, as accurately as possible. Because in cost accounting and management accounting, we talk that we believe we should be roughly correct rather than being precisely wrong. Now, this product cost information is often used to decide the price. I have said often, but in a competitive market, the cost plus margin is equal to price. This formula doesn't work because price is taken by the firm. Price is decided by the market competition. However, this product cost is important to estimate the profitability of products. When we talk about management accounting collects data from within the boundary of the firm and also from outside the boundary of the firm. Why I say outside the boundary of the firm? Because when we talk about alternative, when we talk about searching the alternatives, evaluating the alternatives, then we need to collect information from outside the boundary. For example, we can talk about the profit pool in different value chain, different link in the value chain. I will discuss value chain later, but what is important for us now to decide that as a manager, when we reach the top management level, when we talk about this strategy, we have to decide what activities are to be taken within the boundary and what activities are not to be taken within the boundary. For example, when we talk about the Maruti Suzuki, then we see that their vendors are outside the boundary. They manufacture the components and assembly is within the factory, within the boundary of the company. For taking these decisions, it is important to understand that what is happening outside the boundary. Therefore, as a management accountant, you need to collect information from outside the boundary. For example, you have to look at the competitors' analysis to understand what is the level of competition in the market. You have to collect information from the outside to understand that what strategies others are following, what will be the business environment outside the organization. This is the difference between the cost accounting and management accounting. When we talk about the types of plan, I will first talk about the corporate plan. Although this term is not very popular these days. But yet, we have to plan long term, and corporate plan is a long term plan. For example, the planning period is 5 years. Now we have to set a goal where we want to reach in another 5 years. Many companies plan for another 20 years. But of course, in today's day, to look 20 years is absolutely difficult. But yes, you have to plan for it. But corporate plan, a plan for 5 years, long-term plan, is not very unusual. You have to set a target where you want to reach after 5 years. And to reach at that point, at that goal, to achieve the goal which you want to achieve after 5 years, you have to plan annually. You have to plan year to year. Now this year to year plan, which we call budget and budgetary control, which most of the organizations follow, need to be aligned with the corporate plan. That means you take the steps that are necessary to reach the goal you set in a 5-year plan. Of course, even within the budget, you may have to change the budget. Even the 5-year plan may have to be changed, but without a plan, you cannot really give direction to the company. Then we talk about the strategic plan. A strategic plan, when we talk about, then perhaps the planning word may not be very appropriate. We talk about crafting the strategy. What is the strategy? Where to win, how to win, Now, this is the strategy. That means which market we have to work, where we need to distribute our product, which products we should manufacture, what kind of resources are required, what should be the system that is required. So, strategy is very broad based. It gives direction to the future for every action. I have said strategies like crafting. Crafting is muddling through. Planning is more accurate. Like an engineer does a plan for a, let us say, flyover. But that kind of planning is not possible when we talk about a strategy. And in most cases, you will find that planned strategy is seldom achieved. It is not achieved because as you go through, you muddle through, you try to develop a new plan. There is another concept we talked about, emergent plan. That arises because when you encourage others to innovate, lower level employees to innovate, they do certain things which are beneficial to the company, and that gives rise to a new strategy. For example, if you are selling a particular product in a market of a particular specification, but the lower level employees, for example, when we talk about lower level means the marketing people, they feel that that design might not be working, we can little modify. So one of the factories modified the design a little bit, of course with the permission of the production manager, and they find that that is selling much better. And therefore, the corporate level adapt that and say that this is the strategy that we shall follow. And therefore, there is a emergent strategy. Now, when we talk about management accounting supports all the kind of planning which a company does. Then comes the control. As I said, that if you plan and leave it there, then you might not be able to achieve the results or the outcome that you desired while you plan. Therefore, there is a need to control, need to see the result. You need to, as a manager, get the feedback that whatever you decided, what alternative you decided, what activities you decided are providing the desired outcome. If the desired outcome is not there, you modify the plan or you take remedial actions to ensure that you are getting the desired result. The reason being that, for example, you planned something assuming that workers will work at 90% efficiency, but you find that most of the workers, on an average, efficiency is 80%. So you cannot get the desired result because the lack of skills. Similarly, perhaps you thought a material will be available which of a particular specification, but that may not be available that much. Look at the agro industry. You find that the agro products, raw material, will be available at a particular quantity of a particular quality. Because of the weather conditions, that might not be available. Therefore, you should continuously look at the feedback to ensure that the results outcome you are looking forward to will be achieved, or you might have to modify the plan. Now there are three words which we can talk about: cost control, cost management, cost reduction. Now when we talk about cost control, then the manager does not challenge the specifications. They does not look at all the attributes and quality of the product or service. What they want to do is whether they can produce at the desired cost. For example, standard costing, when we talk about, is a control system, because in the standard costing the Comparison is with actual and the standard to ensure that you are able to control the cost within the standard cost. You are able to produce within the standard cost at the standard cost that has been decided by various engineering and pricing techniques. So you never talk about that can we change the attributes and quality of the product when we talked about cost control. Then we talk about cost reduction. In case of cost reduction, we want to permanently reduce the cost, and therefore we really don't look at what is the standard, because standard is based on the current material, current labor, current design, current skill, etc., current technology. But when we talk about cost reduction, we look at all the aspects by which we can reduce the cost. For example, we can substitute a low cost material. We can adapt a particular technology while providing the services. Then we say that cost will be reduced permanently if we adapt this technology, this system, this way of delivery. But even at this stage, you don't question the attributes and quality of the product or service. You say that the attributes are given, but I have to reduce the cost permanently. So it is not cost control, because in the cost control you decided the standard cost, the cost at which you want to produce a particular product or service. But you want to see that you are producing within that standard which you have already established. When we talk about cost reduction, you are challenging that standard. You are saying that that standard cost looks to be higher. Why can't we produce at a lower cost? By the same product, same service. You don't question the attributes and quality of the service. And that is what cost reduction is all about. When we talk about cost management, then we challenge the attributes and quality of the product. In fact, cost management is the term which is absolutely important for us to understand, because our value which we create for the firm depends on the interplay between cost and revenue. I repeat again, cost and revenue. Because when we sell a product, when we sell a service, we first decide the customer segment. And every customer segment value different attributes, different quality very differently. For example, someone who is buying a luxury car, he or she gets value from various luxury devices which is fitted into the car, or even a higher level of safety measure. But one who is looking forward to a entry level car, he does not get value from the luxury that is the attribute of the car. And therefore, he is not ready to pay a price for that car because it goes beyond its budget. So, for different customer segments, different attributes and quality are of different value, because everyone looks for value for money. So, if I am a producer of a particular product or producer of a particular service, I need to say that how much the customer in that particular customer segment is ready to pay. For example, if we take services, say a simple example we can take about the maintenance of the lift or elevator. Now this maintenance, somebody will say, if you look at a multinational company's office, I don't want that our elevator should break down even for a minute. But when you go to housing society, they will say that, okay, there are two elevators, we shall work with one, but we don't pay to a higher price for promptness of the service. Because servicing an elevator requires different parts that are not easily available at a particular place. Therefore, you have to stock that particular parts, which are costly sometimes. And therefore, there is a cost for providing a prompt service. Now, a housing society may not be ready to pay a price for that prompt service, whereas a multinational company is ready to pay for that price, because there are many intangible benefits with that prompt maintenance service when no lift is in a position when you say that this lift is not working, because there are a large number of customers, clients, large number of people, visitors, and therefore you don't want to cut a sorry figure before them who will say that, oh my God, the lift is not working. And therefore, there is the interplay between revenue and attributes and quality. And cost management looks at that interplay and try to see that they are providing the attributes and quality which value the particular customer segment, so that they can retain a part of the value and earn a reasonable return on the investment. Now, friends, today's episode is only this, and we shall come to the second episode next time. It will be available to you. Thank you very much. I close here.